Support for UWTV is provided by the Boeing Employees Credit Union.
You're right.
My sister Janet had polycystic kidneys and had one transplant, and when that kidney started to fail, that's when I decided maybe this is my chance to donate a kidney to her. And when I found out that I couldn't donate to her because we weren't a close enough match, that's when I started thinking, well, maybe somebody else out there needs a kidney and I could give them mine.
I found out that I had PKD when it was after my daughter's birth, probably about 3 months after. I had a really sharp pain, and so bad that I had to go to the emergency room. They ran me through a series of different tests and initially couldn't make a diagnosis, and then they ultimately had an ultrasound done, and that's when they were able to make the diagnosis because they saw the cysts on my kidneys.
I really didn't care who was getting it, you know, and I know when they told me that I couldn't meet the recipient right away. It would take, there was a cooling off period of time before I could meet her or whoever got it. I thought, well, even if the person who gets the kidney does not want to meet me, I'm fine with that. I don't care. If they don't want to meet me, that's fine. I still want to give it.
When I found out I was going to get a kidney from a living donor, I was very excited because I knew this was going to drastically change my life. I would be able to do those things that I haven't been able to do, and I would get my life back.
If just one person has a desire to donate their kidney and is inspired to do so by listening to our story, I would be very happy.
Welcome to Talk Medicine. I'm Dr. Connie Davis, the Medical Director of the Kidney and Pancreas Transplant Programs at the University of Washington Medical Center. We're here today to talk about living kidney donation. The program at the University of Washington Medical Center in living kidney donation started in the late 1960s. Since that time, it has been improving the lives of those individuals who have kidney failure. They've been helping to improve the lives of those with kidney failure by taking people off dialysis. Dialysis is a process where blood is pulled from an access in a person's arm or a catheter in their shoulder, and it is cleansed and then returned. This process is time intensive. It involves 3.5 to 5 hours a day, 3 days per week. This process leaves people tired and without a lot of energy to perform many of the tasks that they need to do on a daily basis. However, the transplant program helps not only with the patients feeling much better, much less tired, but it also helps to improve their life. People who have transplants live much longer than those individuals who do not. Although early after the transplant, there's a higher mortality from the surgery itself. As you can see from this slide, at approximately 244 days, the survival rate starts to markedly improve in those individuals who receive a transplant, and this lasts for many years afterward. The importance of transplantation is also emphasized by this next slide, which shows that those individuals who receive a transplant without starting dialysis do much better than those who have been on dialytic treatment. On the left-hand side, what you see are those individuals who have received living donor transplants. Those people who are transplanted prior to undergoing dialysis are represented by the top line. These individuals, as you can see, have a much higher survival at 10 years following transplant. Those individuals who are on dialysis for more than 2 years are represented by the lower line, and those individuals have a 10-year survival rate of around 50%. The same information is shown for those individuals who receive deceased donor transplants. The benefit is seen in both groups, but is most pronounced in those who receive living donor transplants. Living donors are really the hero of those people who have kidney disease. However, before we can let them be kidney donors, we need to make sure that they undergo a living donor evaluation. That living donor evaluation starts initially with a conversation with the nurse coordinator. The nurse coordinator talks to the person about any possible medical problems that they might have had in their history that would specifically put them at risk for kidney disease. They also undergo lab testing that shows if they might be compatible with a possible recipient. Blood testing that shows, for instance, what their blood group type is and what their tissue typing happens to be. They also undergo a very significant and very thorough physical exam by a physician. This person in detail will find what specific diseases they might have, considering things like cancer and infections, as well as their risk for kidney disease. The next person that they see is a social worker. It needs to be discussed what the ramifications of transplant donation would be on their life and their family. They also undergo a screening for their healthy lifestyles, and this starts with a conversation not only with the physician but also with the dietitian. The dietitian goes through their eating habits as well as their exercise programs. After this, the patient undergoes more extensive laboratory testing, including radiological evaluations as well as heart evaluations. As part of the living donor process, the final step is the consent. We want to make sure that every living donor is not only healthy but also understands the possible risks, both immediate and in the future. The immediate risk is the risk of death. The risk of death is 0.03%, about the same chance as one has of being hit by a car. The next is the risk of kidney disease. The risk of kidney disease developing to the point of end-stage kidney disease is not well delineated. However, it is felt to be very low, again at about the 0.1% range, about the same as it is in the general population. We would like to say, however, that there may be slightly increased risks in those individuals of color where the studies have not been done to fully explain or to investigate what the final risk might be. The risk next that needs to be discussed is the risk of the future lifestyle changes, issues that might impact one's health insurance or one's medical insurance. These types of issues should not be a problem. However, there are instances where difficulties may occur. If they do occur, then the University of Washington Medical Centers would like to hear about these and help the individual through any difficulties. Lastly, there's the lifetime commitment to a healthy lifestyle as well as to long-term follow-up. The United Network for Organ Sharing, which is the national organization that monitors transplantation, is asking that all donors maintain almost lifetime follow-up to assure that the practices within our country are safe. The Living Donor Program at the University of Washington Medical Center focuses on donor safety. It does so by ensuring that people are very well worked up if they wish to be a living donor, and also helping them to focus on a healthy lifestyle to keep them healthy for the rest of their life. And lastly, we are initiating research studies in those who wish to be living donors to further investigate those issues that might put them at risk. We would also like to take this opportunity to thank all living donors. Their generosity is beyond compare. And now we would like to take this opportunity to meet our recipient, Jolene.
At that point, it was just, I was aware that I had PKD. I wasn't exactly sure when it was going to hit me as far as when my kidneys would fail. And I asked what I needed to watch for. High blood pressure was the key thing my doctor said I needed to monitor. I knew that at some point I was going to need a transplant, but I didn't know when I could get on the list, how many years it was going to be before I even needed dialysis.
Hi Jolene, I'm Carol Arp. I'm the pre-transplant coordinator for the Kidney Pancreas program. Nice to have you here today. You're here today for your full transplant evaluation. You'll meet with a number of people.
It was just before I went on dialysis that I went to all the training and got on the donor list to be able to receive a kidney. And so when I talked with Carol, and she let me know kind of what that procedure was going to be, and then I was on dialysis and just was waiting for the phone call. When I found out that I was getting a living donor transplant, I was just amazed that someone else could give their kidney to someone they didn't even know, and that what a sacrifice on her behalf. I'm just very appreciative of that. For this person who has given me her kidney, just made a world of difference for me and my family. So if someone else can do that, they can get that feeling too.
Thank you, Jolene and Carol, for joining us on Talk Medicine. And we just had an opportunity to hear a little bit about Jolene and your history with kidney disease. And I understand that you had the diagnosis made when you were around 27 years of age, and you have a family history. Could you tell us a little bit about what your family's experience with polycystic kidney disease was?
Well, I guess to start with, I was probably the first one that was diagnosed in my family with PKD. No one else even knew that it was even, actually I think my mom may have known that it was in our family, but she hadn't said anything to us because she didn't have any symptoms or anything as far as that goes. And so when I was diagnosed, then the rest of my brother and my sister and my mom all went in to see, if they had PKD as well, and they all did. But my mom, almost a year after she found out, she was on dialysis. So yes, we all had PKD.
Everyone had PKD, and you were the first one that knew formally what you had.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you feel with kidney disease? What did it feel like?
Well, initially, when my doctor told me that I had kidney disease, but this PKD, I didn't feel any different. Just, okay, you have this disease, and my doctor just pretty much told me that I just need to watch my blood pressure at that point, and that's what I did, and my blood pressure didn't become an issue until probably I was 37, I think, or something like that. So I was on blood pressure medication from that. And same thing with my sister and my brother. They had the same type of watching their blood pressure type.
Once your kidneys decided that they were failing, how did you feel? And what did it feel like being on dialysis?
Well, two separate questions. How I felt before dialysis. As far as before dialysis, I didn't notice anything until probably about the year before I was on dialysis. I was more tired, and I was given Ibogen to get that up, and probably just before, after I'd gotten my fistula put in, I was itchy, and just a little bit initially, and then the itching got bad enough that I couldn't sleep, and so I'd still go to work, but I was just operating on very little sleep, and that's when my doctor said, "No, your functioning level isn't as low as we typically like it, but because you can't sleep with this itching, we need to do something about it." So even though when I had my fistula in, my doctor told me it was going to be a year, it ended up being only about 6 months.
And then that's when you started dialysis.
Yeah.
And then how did you find out about transplant as a possible treatment for kidney disease?
Well, they give you the option when they're telling you about dialysis as well. My doctor did, and told me that transplant is an option, and asked me if I wanted to do that, and I said that I would. And my nephrologist referred me to the University of Washington, and because he'd had several patients who had transplants there as well, and so I went in for the screening, I guess, the training that they had, and met the team and had stuff done as far as that goes. And
so your physician referred you to the University of Washington
Mm-hmm.
Medical Center for evaluation for transplantation.
Yes.
Were you apprehensive?
No, not really.
No.
No.
And I bet part of the reason that you weren't was Carol Arp, who is one of the transplant coordinators at the University of Washington, and who has extensive experience in managing individuals who are candidates for transplantation. Carol, what would you like to ask Jolene about her experience, and what can you tell us from your experience of evaluating these patients?
When you're referred in for transplant evaluation by your nephrologist, there's a lot of different testing that needs to be done, and very often that transplant workup process can be frustrating for patients. we ask for a lot of testing, and it can take a fair amount of time because we want to make sure that you're in the best possible health when you get to transplant. We want you to have a very good outcome. How did you feel about the workup process? Did you find it long, drawn out, frustrating?
No, it worked very well with my schedule because I was working and having a family, and I took a couple days off work to attend the training and to meet with the team and to get whatever they did blood draw and gave me some shots, and that was pretty much it as far as that goes. And then my doctor followed up with anything else that was needed in terms of what the transplant list or whatever the coordinators required for me to have done, and my doctor made sure that that was all scheduled on days that were convenient for me. So it was a very simple process for me.
We also did testing while you were on the transplant list to make sure that there were no medical issues, and that wasn't an issue with your work requirements. It wasn't a problem.
No, any testing, and there were one test they have scheduled on site at work, so I can get that done, and then any of the other testing that I had to do. Having been on dialysis, I received the blood draw tube in the mail, and they did their blood draw there, and I just put it in the mailbox, and that was it. It's very simple.
You were actually listed and active on the deceased donor transplant waiting list for 2.5 years prior to the transplant that you had a few months ago. During that time, how did you deal with work, family, dialysis, and all the stresses that go with combining all of that and not feeling quite so great every day?
I pretty much just handled it day by day with the different situations that came up. I also discussed with my family, my husband and my daughters, that there would be different things that they were going to need to help me with because I wouldn't be home as much. My husband stepped up and took on several other responsibilities, and my daughters took responsibility for cooking meals and making sure on the days that I wasn't home that they were able to get that done, so that when I came home everything was all clean and ready, so all I'd do is come home, and if I wanted to, could just go to bed or just sit down and talk with the girls over what was going on during their day.
So through the process you felt things were fairly well organized, and your family really stepped up to the plate and helped out to make sure that everything got done. They helped cover some of the things that you couldn't do any longer. So how did you respond when you got that phone call about transplant? And secondly, what did your family say?
Well, there was a couple different phone calls that I got before I actually got the phone call for the transplant that I received, and those ones, one of them while I was at work, actually happened in the first one was in the evening, and so I would have liked to have had a transplant at that point, but I was not prepared. That made me realize that, okay, I need to have these things ready. And then when I got the second phone call, I had all the information ready, but that turned out not to be the right one for me. So, but when I got the phone call for this one, I told Carol, I go, really? And so she kind of explained to me that this was, the type of situation that it was, and that I was a possible candidate and that I needed to come in for a blood draw to see if I was compatible with the donor. I was just, as far as my reaction to it, I just went, all right, here we go, mentally to myself, and I told, because I told different people at work, or initially to be prepared, I might just, I might not be here. So, so of course, then I proceeded to train different people in the event that I was the one that was going to receive the new kidney.
And so you got a wonderful kidney, and now it's 3 months later. How do you feel? And are you back at work?
So I'm back at work full time, and I feel really good. Everything's gone really well, and I'm just a little bit tired at probably the end of the work week, but then so is everybody else at the end of the work week. So I think I'm doing great.
And now it's time for us to say thank you to Carol for joining our program. And it's time now to meet Dawn, our donor, and have her tell us her story about living donation.
What's your last name? Pendlebury? Pendlebury? Okay.
Dawn, come on in.
Okay.
Hi Dawn, I'm Cammie Snedden, Transplant Coordinator at the University with the Donor Program, and thank you for coming in today. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too. We've been talking a lot on the phone.
Yes, quite a bit, and so you've done some testing, but now is your evaluation to be here in clinic. And in this clinic visit, you are going to meet me, obviously, and you're going to meet Jeff Harder, the social worker, who's going to discuss support and finances. And then you are going to meet Dr. Elizabeth Kendrick, who is the transplant nephrologist, who's going to be evaluating you medically and giving you medical guidance through the kidney donation process.
I grew up in a family of 8 girls, and we were all very close. Well, Janet had polycystic kidneys. She was born with that, and she found that out as a young adult. And when her kidneys failed about 16 years ago, she was in need of a kidney. And so all of us sisters in the family put in blood to test and see if we would be compatible. As it turned out, one of my other sisters was a closer match and was able to donate a kidney to her. And that kidney lasted for about 15 years before it went into failure. So when that donated kidney went into failure and Janet was in need of another kidney, I got kind of excited, thinking maybe I could donate after all, and that she would be with us a little longer.
Hi Don, I'm Jeff Harder. I'm the social worker with the transplant team. So it's my understanding you're here as a potential donor for your sister Janet.
Yes, I am. Okay. So I started on the process of evaluation with the University of Washington Medical Center. Then when I found out that I couldn't donate to her because we weren't a close enough match, that's when I started thinking, well, maybe somebody else out there needs a kidney and I could give them mine. I know with my sister, when her kidney failed the first time, she had 3 children that were still fairly young, and so when we received that kidney from our other sister, it just gave her life back. And when I told her I was going to donate my kidney to somebody else, she was thrilled. She said, "Oh, you are so wonderful." That was the word she used, and she just encouraged me and thanked me for doing that, and knowing that somebody else would be given a life back.
This is Jolene.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Well, it's time to welcome Dawn, our donor, and Cammie, our living donor nurse, to our program. And it's also wonderful to have everybody together to discuss living donation. It's a miracle that you have given to Jolene, and she is so grateful. And it's also a very interesting time for you in your lives, because this is the first time that you've met.
Yeah, it's today.
Yep.
How did you find out about living donation, and what spurred you on to do such a thing, such an act of kindness?
Well, I initially wanted to donate to my sister who was in kidney failure, and we got to the point in the process where they tested our blood and I found out that I wasn't compatible. She couldn't use my kidney, and that was a real letdown to me. I thought, what do I do now? Because I had gone through a lot of changes in my lifestyle to get to the point where I was acceptable to donate a kidney, and I thought, well, I've worked so hard to get to this point. Somebody needs to get this kidney, even if my sister can't use it. I wanted to give it to somebody, and so I asked, Cammie's the one who told me that I wasn't able to donate to Janet, and so I asked, is there some other process, some other options, any other options that hoping that maybe somebody out there who was more compatible could donate their kidney to Janet and they could have mine. I was willing to trade or whatever. Remember that, Cammie?
Yes, I did. Yes, your situation is a little unique, that it didn't work out for the person that you wanted it to go to, and so we looked at other options to try to make transplant possible, and altruistic donation was one of those options.
Yeah, and I'd never heard of just giving it to anybody, so I thought, well, if Janet can't use it and there's nobody out there who can help her, somebody can use mine.
Did you have any fears through the donation process? Did you have any uneasiness about donating?
That was one thing I never experienced. I had been through 6 cesarean surgeries, and so I thought, well, can't be much worse than that. And I wasn't afraid of surgery, and just the thought of somebody else getting a healthier life by getting a kidney for me, you know, it never scared me. And a lot of people I talked to, they would say, well, aren't you scared of surgery? Or they think, oh, I'd never do that. But it didn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I was very excited to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how about, you know, the finances? Were you concerned about the finances, what kind of hardship that would be on your money situation?
Well, I knew I wasn't going to have to pay for any of the surgery or anything. I did have to take a bit of time off work, but my employer was very good at giving me sick leave and short-term disability for the time that I had to take off of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I wasn't concerned about that.
Yes, yeah. The finances are usually billed through our program, and it gets eventually billed to the recipient's insurance. And so, yeah, the cost of the testing is paid for that way.
How do you think living donation has changed your life?
Well, it really changed mine because I had to change my whole lifestyle. I had to lose some weight. I started exercising regularly, which I'd never done for many years. So right now I'm in a lot better shape than I have been for many years.
I'd like to thank you once again for helping us to provide an overview of living kidney donation. Is there anything that you would like to add that hasn't been said?
Yes, there is. I wanted to thank the whole transplant team and for their excellent job that they did, and I especially want to thank Dawn for giving me her kidney.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Cammie. She stuck with me through this whole process and encouraged me all the way and did a lot of work to get me to the point where I could donate my kidney.
And we'd like to say that the process of living donation is one that needs to be done as safely as possible. At the University of Washington Medical Centers, we like to make sure that that happens. We like to make sure that our living donors are evaluated fully and completely and that their risks are minimized. We would also like to make sure that they have a healthy lifestyle that will sustain them for the rest of their lives. And with that, we would like to thank you for joining us on Talk Medicine.